Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Shades of Entrepreneurship. This is your host, Mr. Gabriel Flores. Today, I'm here with Maxwell Nee. Maxwell, how are we doing?
I'm really good, thank you.
Now, did I pronounce your last name correctly?
Yes, that's correct.
Nice. Now, Maxwell, folks, is actually calling in from Singapore. So it's about 7:30 in the morning over there, just a little bit later than what we're over here in the Pacific Northwest. But Maxwell, please give us a little introduction. Who is Maxwell?
Yes, I would describe myself as a entrepreneur first, investor second. So I've built many businesses, scaled them, had an exit where I sold my business, my shares to my business partners who wanted to continue. And then now I look at businesses that are a little bit more mature, that are already at one, and I look to maybe put some money in, help them get from 1 to 10, because that's the part that excites me and I enjoy the most.
Nice. In fact, it's kind of funny, folks. We got on here. Now, Maxwell is here talking about Scoreapp specifically, which we'll get into here shortly. But Maxwell, one of the things you mentioned is you call yourself an entrepreneurial first before investment. So tell me about your entrepreneurial journey. Tell me about what your first kind of foray into entrepreneurship. What was it? What were you doing? And why did you decide to become a crazy entrepreneur?
Yeah, so I used to work in corporate banking and I loved it at the time. And I had worked really hard, got like 3 promotions in 5 years. And then I realized, wow, this isn't for me. I've really hit a ceiling here. And I hate hitting ceilings. I always love to learn, be stimulated, and just keep growing. Then I moved into selling digital marketing services, where I was selling like email marketing, Facebook ads, LinkedIn ads, even did a YouTube ads as well, but they're not easy to do. And then we learned to package our services into like a coaching product, where it went from done for you to done with you. And we were selling these coaching products for $1,000, $5,000, $10,000.
And then from there, you decided to like just continue to grow it or did you sell that company and then kind of go on to the next one?
Yeah, so I that company was like a great cash flow machine. I 4x my corporate income in that company, and then my business partners wanted to continue. I wanted to take the company in a different direction, and we just weren't aligned. I wanted to go ultra premium because I thought ultra premium was like fun and exciting, and if you're in the market and you're selling Rolls Royces, for me personally, that's a bit more interesting than selling Toyotas. But we were in the Toyota market, and they wanted to stay in the Toyota market. So I said, okay, that's fine. Buy my shares, and I'll go do my own thing. And now doing my own thing, I look basically acquire shares and stock in all the companies that really, really interest me, basically.
Now, so would you say you mentioned, right, you're an entrepreneurial first and then invest in your second. So when you think about investment and entrepreneurship, they're both risks. How do you, as when you're in your mind, you're thinking either an investment or an entrepreneurial endeavor, what is like your thought process? What are you thinking about? What are you going through?
Yeah, it's a good question. I love talking about this because they're completely opposite. Like a blue-eyed, sky's the limit entrepreneur is often the opposite of an investor, right? So sky's the limit entrepreneur is all about how good could this be? Like the ultra optimist, right? They don't see any of the hurdles, they just see the goal and they're like, I want to reach that goal. And you need to have that. You need to have like that unwavering tunnel vision towards a goal and just go for it no matter how bleak it looks, right? But an investor is the opposite. The best investors in the world often think what could go wrong, and they don't want to go anywhere near anything that what could go wrong. Like when they see a business and they see too much like hair, it's like they see like a centipede of like these really poisonous hairy spikes all over it, and they're like, I don't want to go near that, right? So when I say entrepreneur first, investor second, I try to only do entrepreneurial journeys now that have like the discipline of an investor, where for example, I my next business, if I build another one, I only want to spend at maximum 5% of revenue on sales and marketing. Because when we're in the course selling business, anyone can sell courses. The barrier to entry is really low. We got to a point where we were spending like 30-40% of revenue on sales and marketing. And at that point, it's like, well, how much are you actually taking home? How hard are you working? And then what are you actually taking home? So I I'm employing the discipline to really carve out, smart strategic quadrants within markets, and then, being an entrepreneur on top of that.
What markets do you like? When you break out the quadrants, I think about quadrants too. Like when I think of strategy, and like I'm in the healthcare world, and so we're an academic medical center. I'm always thinking quadrants, and they're different. For example, research is one quadrant, quality of care is another quadrant, cost is another quadrant, right? And then just actual technology, right? The capabilities. And I'm like, we don't need to be the best in the cost quadrant, but we need to be the best in technology, right? Like there's always one quadrant you need to be the best in. What would you say that's the one you primarily focus on? Or is there one just quadrant, or do you kind of look at multiple quadrants, I'd say?
I look at quadrants probably a little bit differently. I look at it, so you're in the US, right? The US is like land of abundance. You have all four quadrants in almost every state. Like you just have so much access to everything. So I need to look at it a little bit differently because I'm in Asia. Singapore is a country of 4 million people, right? so the country in itself has strengths and weaknesses. So I want to lean into the strengths of my localization, right? It's a bit like if you live in New York, it's pretty smart to do something in finance, right? Because it's a really deep blue ocean there. So for me, the deep blue oceans here are things like sustainability. Venture capital sustainability is like not just about energy or plastic. It's about electricity. It's about food. It's about proteins. It's about carbon. All of those things are really big priorities here because this country in particular believes in it a lot. So there's a lot of like grant funding and support and prioritization. Like you could actually walk into a big corporate and say, hey, look, I can help you reduce your carbon footprint. And they just wrote in their shareholders report that they're committing to spending 2% of revenue on solving this problem. So you have a basket of revenue you can go for that is publicly advertised, right? And things like that. So that's the kind of stuff that I look for.
Yeah, that's actually quite remarkable. I'm trying to think of like on the top. Granted, the United States is going through its own unique transitions as we're going through administration transition and what certain administrations want to do. And so it is interesting because to your point, Singapore, 4 million people, folks, just to kind of give you a general idea, I think Portland, Oregon is about 1.1 million or something, right? And so the Singapore country, the entire country is 4 million. And so to kind of give you a general understanding of the size. But to Maxwell's point, like population density creates opportunities, right? And so I really like what you were kind of saying though is you really focus I think this is kind of a unique thing is the grant funding and the availability, like kind of looking at where are businesses spending their money and why and what's going to be their focus. Then how do I create a niche to kind of target that kind of bucket? Now, how do you target that bucket? How do you kind of begin to think about, okay, I see this bucket of funding. What's the venture that kind of targets that?
Yeah, and I want to caveat this because I hate the whole venture capital world. I hate like the you don't even build a real business, you just chase funding optics. I hate that. I'm talking about using natural resources that are around you to find the best opportunity, right? That's what we're talking about, to be clear.
Yes.
So I recently did one. So there's energy is a huge problem. Every time you do a ChatGPT search, it takes up 8 to 12 times more electricity than a Google search. Right. So you can imagine, the magnitude of that as these apps become, they're all free. So you can just imagine the magnitude of that. It's gotten to a point now where in certain countries, I think in the US as well, an AI data center cannot be connected to the grid. They need to be independently powered. They need to be off grid, right? So electricity was always like a really good thing to invest in, but now it's the demand is growing. Not just like so the supply is just it's the supply is like 50% short overnight because of this whole AI thing, right? So I have a company where we build wind turbines for renewable energy. So basically, like the wind version of a solar panel,
Yep.
and we've managed to get it to the point where over its lifetime, because a wind turbine can last 20 years, over its lifetime we could generate renewable wind energy at 50% the cost of like the US tariff. The tariffs for electricity are pretty much all the same. They're all about 24 US cents per kilowatt hour, and we could produce at half that. So we just got to find the best places, the markets that need this the most, that have the most urgency to want to fix this problem now, and go after those and sell in our turbines.
Folks, if you have never seen an air turbine like what Maxwell's talking about, for those folks that are here in Oregon, specifically the Pacific Northwest, if you go out to Eastern Oregon, you will see the tunnels, the air turbines out there. They have massive fields out in Eastern Oregon. And I don't think you understand the size of these things until you actually are under one. It is quite remarkable. In fact, my good friend, her father does solar panels down in Arizona. So we got the wind panels up here, we got the solar panels, and then we're trying to do the ocean power out in the Pacific and Atlantic as well. So it is really unique seeing these different innovations. And I really like what you said too, is how do we use our natural resources to create innovations? Because even the EV, it sounds like with the EV electric vehicles, the amount of natural resources and energy that goes in just to making a battery for one of those EV cars kind of defeats the purpose sometimes almost, right? When you're thinking of the amount.
Yeah, I've seen a photo of like 4 or 5 Teslas at a Tesla charging spot, and then there was a diesel generator powering the charging spot.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, it seems like kind of counterintuitive, but it is interesting. One thing I'm always, if somebody can ever come up with like a carbon negative furniture, that would be awesome. Like a furniture that truly sucks in and holds in carbon in the air.
We already have that. So one of my other businesses, it's an industrial hemp farm. So we grow hemp. We process it into 3 verticals. The first vertical is plant-based food, protein, and oils. So that's eating the hemp. This next vertical is packaging. So like replacing, things like plastic shapes out of hemp, which is amazing because hemp grows in 100 days. A tree takes 20 years. To cut down a tree to make a coffee cup is just a huge waste of resources, right? And then the third vertical is building materials. So we have like hemp plasterboards, cabinetry, already selling to the market. It's got all the properties, it's fire resistant, mold proof, termite proof, all that type of stuff.
That is incredible. It's interesting because
so it's carbon negative.
Yeah, we've seen a huge influx. I would say in the Pacific Northwest in particular, particularly Oregon, a large influx within, I would say like around that 2020, 2019 era of hemp fields in our region. And you started seeing like less and less hops and other, it's almost like kind of a trend, right? You see less and less people drinking alcohol, and all of a sudden you see less and less hop fields around the area. And obviously these farmers still need to make some revenue. And so they're starting to transition into hemp or other areas. Hazelnuts has been another one that's been coming around as well. It's very unique, but yeah, it's quite interesting that you can in fact, I would be, what kind of materials, how do you turn hemp, which is a plant, into a hardware thing like you can drink and make a house out of?
Yeah, well, there's 2 parts to it. The first part to it is the hemp tree, like it's like a bamboo tree, has a hard part, which is a bit like wood, like it's like wood chips. It's called the hurd. And then it has the outer layer, which is called fiber. So the fiber's the most valuable. That's the layer that people could strip out and turn into hemp textiles. There's a lot of people in textiles industry in China actually buying up as much hemp fiber as you can. The issue is that the machines you need to process this is like in the tens of millions. So you
Oh,
have
wow.
to really be all in. Like you got to be a big institution to be able to fund this, because a high net worth individual, that's a lot for a high net worth individual, right? It's an all in bet, like it's do or die. So um, the fibers can be pressed into basically just like carbon fiber, pressed into like a hemp plastic that's virtually indestructible, and you use that for your cabinets, you use that. I know someone that's using that to make what's called pallets, the shipping pallets.
Oh, yeah.
That,
Interesting.
like, so shipping pallets are very expensive because they're
Yeah.
pure timber, right?
Yep.
But if you make a hemp pallet, it's not the same. You don't make the wooden beams. You just press it into like a plate, like an upside down plate, and it's half the size, half the weight, half the cost, and it's fireproof.
Wow. Now I'm thinking about shipping
Yeah,
costs right now, folks, because if you've ever
exactly.
if you dealt with any type of like large freight shipping, though, it's all about weight. And timber is literally one of like the most heaviest pieces of wood, but it's also most durable, right? Which is why they use it for
Yeah.
those things. So that's really interesting that you can use hemp for that as well.
Yeah, the shipping cost is huge, like you half the weight, right? And imagine how many of these pallets there are on a ship. I heard this story that Qantas, Australia's airline, I'm from Australia, by the way, when they made the decision to stop giving everyone a toothpick, because they used to put the toothpick in the meal pack, when they made the decision to stop doing that, and then they said, it was on demand, so you could ask for a toothpick, but you wouldn't need as many. They, just by taking toothpicks off the plane, they saved, I think, $2 million a year on petrol.
On
Right?
gas? Wow.
Just
Just
toothpicks.
on gas. That
Just
is
on gas.
incredible.
Yeah. So weight, like money's in the weight, right?
Wow. And I don't think people really, I would have not guessed that. And that's not even counting the amount of money they probably saved on actually purchasing the actual raw product as well, which is
Exactly.
incredible. Wow.
Yeah.
That is incredible. So Maxwell, you've been doing this for some years now. You got all sorts of business, and I believe you also you have a wine and whiskey fund, I believe, as well. Which I would love to hear a little bit more about the wine and whiskey. How did that come into fruition?
Yeah. So because the last business was doing quite well, I was like, I have some money I want to put to work. I started researching investments, and I saw whiskey investing. I thought, oh, that's interesting. And that makes a lot of sense. You go to a bar, like a whiskey's aged 3 years and it costs 50% more. I'll take that 50%, return in 3 years. Like that's huge. The stock market would kill for that. So that was logic going into it. And then I started putting money into it. I've got, like 6 figures in wine and whiskey that I can't touch. This is like undrinkable. It's very far away from me on purpose. so I don't open it by accident. And it's managed by an investment manager. Like it's pro and all that type of stuff. And then I said to my investment manager, I said, hey, are you in Asia Pacific? He said, no, I'd love to be. I said, okay, cool. Well, let me write up a business plan and let's go to market Asia Pacific. And then we did. It didn't work as well as in Europe because what I learned is that this is only like the top 1% of wines and whiskeys that are investment grade that you want to be in as an investment, and only like 10% of wine whiskey drinkers in like Australia, Asia Pacific actually drink the top 1%. So it wasn't an easy sell, right, type of thing. And also, it's definitely, we also hit very cyclical part of the year when all like crypto stuff was blowing up, like FTX was blowing up. That's when we went to market. So the markets were just, the brakes were pumping all over the place. So that's another quadrant that, I really look at. It's like seasonality. What season are we in? Because I've been caught out by season, and if you could get caught out, that's really bad. If you could just fall into the right season at the right time, that could be enormous, right?
Yeah, I agree. In fact, that's kind of one of the things we're not necessarily seasons per se, but we're calling it environmental migration, right? Essentially, like for the lot of folks like in the Northern California area or Southern California having those massive fires, we're starting to see a huge migration of individuals up to the Pacific Northwest, moving north. And it's almost like, unfortunately, folks, that's another, like, at the end of the day, when the old saying, when there's blood on the street, buy real estate kind of thing, right? If you find a problem, if there's a problem,
Yeah.
there's a solution somewhere to be had, and that might be one solution. So look at that outward migration of community members that are leaving that town that have money. Where are they going? Because they're going to probably want some of the same resources that they had there in that Southern California area that are no longer available. If you can create it somewhere else where they're going, you might have yourself. Now, Maxwell, you've been doing all of this, a lot of amazing things. I'm really impressed. And then you started an app, Scoreapp. Tell us a little bit about Scoreapp. What does it do, and how I really like what this thing is, because it kind of is definitely in my world. But tell us a little bit about it and how you created it. What does it do?
Yeah, so I didn't create the app. My business partner did. His name's Daniel Priestley. He's a best-selling author, really famous entrepreneur now. And he sent me an email when I was building my other business and said, "Hey, we've just created this app. It uses quiz marketing. It's a bit like a cross between ClickFunnels and SurveyMonkey put together." And I said, "No way. No. Well, where are you up to?" He said, "Oh, well, we're open for angel investment. Love to have you." And so I angel invested immediately, and then I invested 2 more times. I did like 2 other follow-up investments, and um, he, the reason why I was so keen on it is because we were actually already using quiz marketing in our business to generate about 25% of our leads to do our $2 million a year. But we had to. I didn't have a web developer or tech guy on my team that was capable of building this. So we like Frankenstein our own version using like Zapier and Google Sheets and PDF builders and that type of thing, and Canva. And it took us, I don't know, probably would cost us like $10,000. Took us 8 weeks to do that. And all of a sudden, there's this app where you could do it for free. So it's just like a no-brainer. So we jumped in. We started using it for our business. It worked for our business really, really well. And then, as we knew it did, as we knew it would, and then we brought all of our clients over. So we helped Scoreapp to get to its first 1,000 clients. And then I sort of just sat as like a partner, making referrals and introductions every now and then. And then outside of that, about a year ago, I came onto the team. I said, "Hey, look, how would you guys, the same thing, right? What's your presence like in Asia Pacific?" They said none. I said, "Okay, well, let me bring this to market. I'll do a bunch of podcasts, radio interviews, emailing lists, partnerships, physical events, hand out some books, because we have a book called Sport Marketing. I can get some of these copies out to listeners if that's of interest." And I've been, the CRO, Chief Revenue Officer, ever since.
I love it. Again, folks, that book will be available on the shadesofE.com. So make sure you subscribe to the newsletter. Now, for the folks that are not interested, you mentioned like the quiz marketing. You mentioned you're doing like a lot of quiz marketing. Tell us a little bit about that and why, again, kind of just do the basics, like what is quiz marketing and how do you use it to generate leads?
Yeah, so quiz marketing is, think of it as like a gamified lead generation process for the potential client. So a really common example that we all probably would have seen before is like a personal trainer or a fitness coach will have a Facebook ad or a promotion that will say, answer these 10 questions and I will tell you your exact body type and frame. And based on that, I'll give you the exact nutrition plan you need to be eating, as well as the exact as well as the exact workout plan that you should be doing for your body type goals in half the time, right? Because you could waste a lot of time at the gym and money and all that type of stuff. So that is a really good example of what we do and how you can use quiz marketing in lead generation.
Now, who would you say would be like who are your typical clients? Who do you guys primarily focus on?
Yeah, so we have almost 9,000 clients now, and they're all paying. And so we do, pretty, we'll probably hit $10 million a year in revenue this year. And our clients are like 90% coaches, consultants, authors, thought leaders, digital marketing agencies, and any type of service provider. So anyone that provides a product or service that is generally intangible products, so like a digital, like if you deliver your product or service through Zoom or through emails or through Slack, it'll probably work really well for you. It works really well for products, for services and products that are very personalized, so, it's not like a cookie cutter experience. It works well for that. It also works well for product services that are super intangible. So we have a lot of people that, for example, are in like design or personal branding, and they offer their clients like a personal branding score, which is a very clever way to add like measurability to something that's usually very subjective.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was talking earlier about, I do a lot of healthcare public speaking. So I go out a lot and do a lot of public speaking. And I started talking about, I created this refer and provide funnel, very much like a marketing sales funnel, except it's really specific to my role going out in the community, building relationships with external providers to try to get them to refer to our system and build those rapport. And what does that look like? And as I've been continuing to talk about it, the lady's like, you should actually write a book. And then that funnel, your presentation is your first funnel, right, of the awareness, and then you get them into the book. Okay, now you purchase them, and then you can try to get them down to a loyalty, which is becoming, to your point, those hand-on, that's concierge, kind of personalized coaching, training, business development, whatever it is, because that is the true funnel for my business, at least, right? So which was really unique, because again, folks, when you think about entrepreneurship, you think about any job, you think about any lead marketing generation, it's a funnel, whether it's a sales funnel, marketing funnel. Funnels kind of lead, like the Scoreapp mentions, like I think one of their taglines, funnels kind of lead everything, right? The funnels that drive personal results, if you think what they said. And so again, the funnels are really unique because it helps you, one, create awareness, but it also keeps you on track from like a perspective, what tactics you should be doing and what goal you should be expecting before you move on to that next phase of the funnel. So it really does kind of keep you in track. Now, how does the Scoreapp, so if a client comes in and logs onto it, what can they kind of expect? What kind of experience will they be receiving with the Scoreapp?
When they log in, there's a free version, paid, premium, all that type of thing. You don't even need a credit card to try the free version. So it's very easy to access, no friction. And then the really cool thing about helping you get set up, we have like a weekly workshop, we have like email support chat, we have all that type of stuff. But we also have an AI wizard where it'll ask you, 8 to 10 questions, maybe more, maybe less, and it'll pull out of you, your niche, your target audience, your branding, your theme, your parameters that you want to have this built in, and then it'll go to work and then spit out like 6 to 7 hours of copywriting and basically write a whole marketing campaign for you. Yeah.
Yeah, folks, I gotta tell you how awesome this is, because I don't think you understand when you're going through like a strategic plan, and maybe a lot of you do understand that you understand the heartache and the time and commitment that goes into creating a marketing campaign for sometimes just a single event, right? You might just have one single event that you're creating a marketing campaign, and then how do you measure it, right? Because there are so many different platforms you're looking at. You're going to use Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, Twitter, X, or whatever it's called now. You're going to keep on using these different ones, and so you're going to constantly measure yourself, whether those be impressions or clicks. And the unique thing about it is marketing has gotten so much more difficult with those iOS updates, right? Do you want to allow this app to track you? Well, that has created a huge difficulty for those hyper-targeted marketing individuals. But one of the things that's kind of unique, and I've learned this about myself, is when I go to Amazon, I might find a brand on Amazon, and then I'll go to that brand's website directly from Amazon. So it's almost like Amazon itself is also a marketing driver for a lot of these businesses, which is really unique.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of unique to see where somebody sees your product, and then where they actually go to purchase it. It is really nice.
Yeah, exactly.
So where do you see what Maxwell? Where do you want to see Scoreapp? Where does it go in the next 5 years? What's your guys' plan?
Yeah, so I see us doubling our user base probably in the next 12, 18 months, which is great. And then, we get into a really cool territory where we're within the sort of $100 million exit territory, which would be really exciting. First time any of us have done this, so we're just taking it one step at a time. And but outside of that, we really see Scoreapp becoming an integral part of anyone that's trying to sell anything online, right? Because a typical lead magnet will convert at like 10-15%. A discount code, a freebie, ebook, free ticket to an event, that type of thing. But when our average conversion rate for our clients is between 20 to 40%. Yeah, so it's almost double, if not triple, or maybe even 4 times. Yeah, and sometimes we have some that achieve 60%. Yeah.
Wow.
So it's crazy.
Folks, you can find this on the shadesofE.com. I'm going to definitely log on to it afterwards to kind of dig into it, because as I was just telling Maxwell right now, I told you guys my plan, and this would work for that lead generator of what I'm trying to do, because again, it's really concierge, really specific, really niched what we're trying to do, and it is trying to create a concierge feel, because at the end of the day, if I can get in front of public speaking to get to the point where an academic medical center wants to bring me in as a consultant or a business advisor or whatever, that's kind of the end goal, right? So I really like it. Now Maxwell, you talked about Scoreapp. What about what's up with Maxwell Nee? What are you planning to do in the next 5 years? I know you mentioned outside of Scoreapp, do you have any other ventures that you're continuing to look at?
Yeah. So I'm always just looking for what I said, right? Like I'm looking for ventures where we're going to spend at maximum 5% of revenue on sales and marketing. So I want to find gaps in the market. I think you only need 3 things to have something really hit out of the park. You need the team, so you need every single person in that team needs to be an A player, because I really believe that if you have a B player, one B player, and an A team, it brings the whole team down to a B level, right? And everyone agrees with me when I share that. There's a team, there's the money, so there's is this business model cash flow positive? Does it make itself cash flow positive? Do we need to find funding? Where we find that funding? All that type of stuff, like the business model questions, and then the gap in the market. So I'm only interested in things and looking for things and hearing more about things where there is an overhang of demand. So there's not enough supply as it is, and you're just like plugging that supply, that demand with your supply, but you got to find the demand first, right? So you got to go out there, talk to people, listen to the market. I have like 5 to 10 introduction calls a week, where I'm talking to people and saying, hey, what are you working on? What are you seeing? And like, why did you pick that market? I'll question people and dig into them and do all that type of stuff. Yeah.
I really talk about the importance of network. Like I like that you have these introduction calls, but talk about how important is networking to you?
Oh, it's enormously important. Like I've always believed, and maybe this was naive, or maybe this is me like believing that I could win the lottery. I've always believed that like your life would be completely different if you just met that one person, like whether they're a mentor or they're like, they have a need for someone like you, and I still believe that's true. So like, for example, Warren Buffett, if he never met Benjamin Graham, there wouldn't be $600 billion of cash in Berkshire Hathaway right now,
Yeah.
right? And not just that, if Benjamin Graham, so he asked, hey, can I work with you for free? Can I just learn with you? And then Benjamin Graham famously said that free is too expensive. You're going to take up too much of my time, right? But then eventually he opened up to him and let him in, and look what happened. So I think that the vast majority of the population, uh, like they want to stay comfortable, and they want to stay in their circles, and they want to hang out with their school friends, past 60 years old, and that's fine. But that's not where the growth happens. The growth happens in finding that Benjamin Graham that pushes you to your limits and really cracks open the egg of innovation and new ideas. So I'm always talking to people to try to find that.
Well, I like that. I really love what you said too. You want to surround yourself with A players and not bring in a B player, because culture eats strategy for breakfast. And at the end of the day, what they say is, you're the average of the 10 people.
Oh, I like that. I'm gonna steal that.
Oh
culture
yeah,
strategy for breakfast.
Yeah, and it's like they say, it's like you're the average of the 10 people you hang out with the most. And so if you're surrounding yourself with phenomenal people, you're going to do some phenomenal things. But if you're constantly surrounding yourself with negativity, you're going to find yourself having tough days. It just happens. Maxwell, I really appreciate this conversation. This was awesome. I think I'm really going to check out the Scoreapp. But before we go, is there any last words you have to say for folks listening at home?
Yeah, I would say that, whether you're an entrepreneur or not, or you're thinking about it, where I've gone wrong is I, put work above everything else, which sounds like it makes sense, but what that does is that it takes away from other parts of your life, like your personal life and your health and that type of thing. And the irony is that if your battery isn't fully charged in all parts of your life, then everything will start to drag down, or you hit a wall and you crash. And it's pretty hard to see the wood from the trees when you're in that. But if you can't see the wood from the trees, you will hit a wall, you'll burn out, and then you'll see what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yes, I completely agree. Burnout is a very, very tough thing that I think a lot of people will go through. Now, last question: if folks are interested and want to learn more about you, want to connect with you, how do they find you online? Where can they connect with you?
Yeah, please. So Maxwell Nee is my name on LinkedIn. I'm the only one on there with that name. Let's connect.
Perfect. Maxwell Nee. And again, folks, you'll have this information on theshadesofe.com. You can subscribe to the podcast. This will be available on all the streaming services. You can also follow us on the Shades of E on the social sites: Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. And then you can also view this episode a week early on Patreon. So those Patreon members will have this episode a week early. And you can also view this on YouTube when it releases. Maxwell, thank you again. This has been an awesome conversation. I'm going to ask you a few questions about the Scoreapp after we get off of this recording, because it's very interesting.
Okay, great.
I do appreciate it.
Yes.
Folks, thank you again, and have a great night.